It wasn't that long ago that the standard treatment for mental illness was institutionalization. People in these institutions were subjected to treatments that would be unthinkable today, like insulin coma therapy and lobotomies. Psychiatric medications changed how we treat mental illness. For decades, we've taught people that mental illness required medication. But now there's a new industry forming around doing the exact opposite, helping people to quit taking psychiatric medications. I'm Patty, the girl with blue energy. I have ADHD and bipolar disorder. Today I'm talking about deprescribing, a movement that's been quietly gaining traction. What began as a grassroots movement has made its way into mainstream psychiatry. We now have support groups for getting off psych meds, a growing demand for tapering clinics, and a federal initiative promoting deprescribing. Deprescribing isn't a new idea. It started in geriatric medicine, where older people often take multiple medications, which increases their risk of falls, drug interactions, and even death. In 2016, the term was more widely used, and it was formally defined as the process of tapering or stopping medications to improve outcomes and reduce polypharmacy. Around the same time, psychiatrists started to see that some of the same problems existed in mental health care. Two Yale psychiatrists were the first to talk about this. They published an article called A Prescription for Deprescribing in Psychiatry, arguing that psychiatry also needed deprescribing protocols and a more patient-centered approach to prescribing medications. These were the three prescribing practices that they talked about. The first was that the risk to benefit ratio can change over time. So, for example, if a patient was taking lithium and they started to have renal impairment, well, then the risks may begin to outweigh the benefits and the medication should be stopped. The next was polypharmacy. They recommended starting one medication before adding a second medication and reassessing the risks and benefits before prescribing a second medication to treat the side effects of the first. And the third was medication non-adherence. So basically, some patients are going to quit taking their medications, whether their psychiatrist wants them to or not. A collaborative deprescribing process is safer than having the patient just abruptly quit taking their medications on their own. This way, if they do need help, they still have an open relationship with their doctor. Deprescribing was supposed to reduce unnecessary medications, lower the risk of long-term side effects, and provide the patient with the safest, most appropriate treatment. Even though psychiatrists understood the need for deprescribing, not everyone was supportive of collaborative tapering. Patients who wanted to stop taking their psychiatric medications often felt like they couldn't go to their own doctor for help, so they tried to stop on their own. But when they experienced withdrawal symptoms, they were often told they were relapsing. Many were never told that withdrawal symptoms could look like a relapse or how difficult the withdrawal process could be. They ended up feeling stuck on a medication they wanted to get off of. This is how the grassroots deprescribing movement began. Small groups of patients started sharing information and resources on how to taper off their psychiatric medications. Now, 10 years after psychiatric deprescribing was first talked about, we're starting to see a shift in deprescribing practices. More doctors are specializing in deprescribing or offering it as a service, and you can find standalone tapering clinics in many states across the country. And the shift isn't just changing psychiatry. It's beginning to show up in government initiatives as well. In May 2026, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services announced a plan to curb psychiatric overprescribing. The initiative promotes appropriate prescribing while encouraging deprescribing when clinically appropriate. HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announced the plan at a Maha Institute Summit on mental health and over-medicalization. He said, "Today we take clear and decisive action to confront our nation's mental health crisis by addressing the overuse of psychiatric medications, especially among children. We will support patient autonomy, require informed consent and shared decision-making, and shift the standard of care toward prevention, transparency, and a more holistic approach to mental health." The plan encourages clinicians to prioritize informed consent and shared decision-making, and also to regularly review the risks and benefits of psychiatric medications with their patients. It also directs providers to deprescribing protocols and FDA guidance on tapering schedules. The initiative has received both praise and criticism. Supporters say it's a step in the right direction, but others argue it doesn't actually address the underlying causes of the mental health crisis, and they warn it may have unintended consequences. So let's talk about some of those concerns. Critics argue that the plan oversimplifies the mental health crisis by focusing on overprescribing, when many people can't even access timely or comprehensive mental health care. Holistic approaches like therapy, nutrition counseling, sleep interventions, and other non-drug treatments are great, but not everyone has access to this, and it's not helpful for everyone. By making the focus of this initiative on overprescribing and deprescribing, it could unintentionally increase the stigma around taking psychiatric medication. Instead of hearing the message that medication works for many people, they may hear a completely different message, that medication is the problem. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services recently issued guidance on how providers could bill Medicare for deprescribing services. In theory, this should make it easier for clinicians to spend more time with their patients to provide safe, supervised tapering. But the right approach to medication should always be individualized and not driven by policy. Some clinicians worry that better billing guidance won't necessarily translate into more time and support for patients. And one of the biggest concerns is that deprescribing may be becoming aligned with a socio-political agenda that many people see as anti-medication. Even though there's nothing explicitly anti-medication in the plan, its focus is on overprescribing and not on improving access to mental health care. But even without a federal initiative, demand for deprescribing is growing. That's why we're now seeing more psychiatrists specializing in deprescribing and more standalone tapering clinics. You might be wondering, why do we need separate deprescribing clinics? Isn't this already part of psychiatric care? Psychiatrists already review medications, adjust doses, and decide if a patient still needs to be on a medication. Why isn't this enough? Here's what most people don't realize. Deprescribing is complicated, and it's not just because someone can't talk to their doctor about things. Going off of psychiatric medications is often much harder than going on them. Deprescribing also comes with risks. It requires careful tapering and monitoring for withdrawal symptoms and relapses. This means that there are often longer or more frequent appointments than regular medication management. As demand has grown, so has the need for clinicians who specialize in deprescribing. Many still work with their own psychiatrist, but others prefer to work with a specialist or a tapering clinic. Tapering clinics often use payment plans so they can offer more robust care that insurance may not cover. This includes compounded medication for slower tapering, functional medicine, sleep and nutrition support, and other non-drug treatments. Now let's talk about my concerns about the deprescribing movement. I never want to see someone stop taking their psychiatric medications because of stigma or because someone convinced them that they don't need it. That is my biggest concern about the deprescribing movement, not about deprescribing itself. The online content promoting deprescribing worries me. I've been seeing more and more misinformation or incomplete information about psychiatric diagnosis and medications. I've seen antidepressants blamed for everything from emotional blunting, which can happen, to destroying marriages. I've seen dangerous claims suggesting that people don't really have bipolar disorder, that ADHD is a myth, and that most people don't actually need medication. This content is a form of marketing. Some tapering clinics charge thousands of dollars a month, not covered by insurance, to help people to wean off of their psychiatric medications. When content is designed to get vulnerable people to sign up for a paid service, it makes me question how honest and objective their messaging really is. I also worry that the movement will encourage people to seek out deprescribing specialists before they talk to their own doctor. Your own psychiatrist has seen your history over time. They know whether you've been hospitalized, how you respond to medication, and what happened the last time you were depressed or manic. A clinic meeting you for the first time doesn't have that history. My worry is that people may be hearing what they want to hear instead of having a hard conversation with their own doctor about how they really feel about taking medication or their diagnosis. I am also concerned about the growth of peer coaching around deprescribing. I have a mental health channel, but I don't offer coaching or consulting. Sharing your personal experience is one thing. Telling someone how to go off of their psychiatric medications is something completely different. That should only happen under the supervision of a doctor. Finally, deprescribing is new. We don't know the long-term outcomes yet. Are people better off years later, or do they end up going back on their medication? We don't know the answers to all of this yet. We've spent decades reducing the stigma around having a mental illness and taking psychiatric medications. I'd hate to see this progress undone. Nobody wants to have a nuanced conversation about psychiatric medications. Psychiatric medications can be life-changing, but they shouldn't be the only part of treatment. I don't just talk about medication on my channel. I talk about managing your mental health through your lifestyle. So, getting enough sleep, eating a healthy diet, having a healthy relationship, or seeing a therapist. All of that is important when you're managing a mental illness. My hope is that deprescribing leads to better conversations about psychiatric medication. I hope that people feel comfortable talking to their own doctor about deprescribing, and that if that's the right decision for them, they have support to do it with their own doctor. I've weaned off of psychiatric medications myself with a psychiatrist. That was long before there was a big deprescribing movement. There are doctors who will listen to your concerns and help you taper safely. I've tried it both ways, and my life is better when I take medication. What I don't want to see is someone stopping their psychiatric medication because of stigma, fear, or misinformation. Before you watched this video, did you know about deprescribing? Have you ever tapered off one of your own medications? I'd love to hear your thoughts on deprescribing, tapering clinics, or the new federal initiative. Let me know what you think in the comments. I hope you liked this video. I try to make educational mental health videos. If you like the video, please support my channel by clicking the like button or subscribing. I'll have another video out for you guys real soon.